worse than I thought. I look back at my book in 2009 on hot and cold wars. And that's been almost 8 years now since that was written. On the one hand, it seems like a short time, and the other hand, it seems like a long time. But I'll give you 4 observations about it. One, in the intervening period, we've made a lot of advances on the study of climate, but we haven't made much progress when it comes to understanding the social side of it. The 2 tracks of research seem to have come unhinged, although there have been some efforts by the IPCC and others to relate them. There hasn't been really a lot of research on what this really means for people outside of pretty wild estimates. That being said, forecasts are getting more dire each time we see them. There's been a couple of IPCC reports in this period, and each one shows more warming. And each time the polar melting is going faster than they originally thought. These areas are not going to start going through these differential periods in the 2020s or 2030s. This is happening now in a lot of the Arctic polar areas, to a lesser extent in the Antarctic. That being said, there's a long ways to go to making these areas habitable or even useful for an economic purpose such as resource extraction. So I don't see a lot of increase in the amount of cold wars we're going to see. But the hot wars we're going to see more often because we're seeing them crop up. Some people believe that the Syrian conflict had its roots in a drought that lasted from 2007 to 2010. A lot of the fighting that's taking place in the Sahel now, including the link to groups like Boko Haram or the Tuareg or Al-Shabaab, have to do with not only ideology, but also deteriorating environmental conditions. And lastly, when it comes to optimists and pessimists, I'm afraid the pessimists are winning. I think because they've accurately assessed things, and the optimists haven't come up with a magic bullet yet. But when it comes to the realists or the idealists, I think the realists are winning. There's not going to be a global solution anytime soon, and that's going to make this even worse. You see, I think that we're in for a greater amount of warming even than the models show, and that's increasing every year because we didn't make this link to society. And I think if you look at demographics, by mid-century, South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa will be the majority of the world's population, largely dependent on agriculture, the most susceptible sector to climate change. And as it slows, and thereby slows the demographic transition, you're going to see more people than expected, and even more climate change. You'll be able to watch this unfold. Lucky.